Hi guys, Ukraine is at war, Israel is at war, and there's been a surprising level of interest in the ongoing armed revolution that has erupted in Myanmar last month. I guess it's mainly because it seems to involve something that is very familiar to all of us: scam operations. Many online personalities and some YouTube channels have given their views, but I find that even some official media are only able to come up with half-baked theories. Patriots and fans of China-made war movies see this as a China-directed crackdown. They think that the PLA has come to the rescue of the inept Myanmar government to eradicate online scam operations.
Too simple. Sometimes naive.
Being an observer of this region for decades and having traveled inside insurgent controlled territory in Myanmar, I would like to put in my 2 cents worth. Make no mistake, the circumstances, situations are a lot more complex than what meets the eye.
Too simple. Sometimes naive.
This video is going to be long, but I promise you not to be boring. However, I'm not on the ground at the moment, and even if I were on the ground, I may not be able to uncover every piece of privileged information for you. What I can do is to share with you what I know, and hopefully this helps everyone make sense of the situation. First, a little geopolitical background. Geographically, the only physical barrier between the China and the Myanmar that we recognize today is the Salween River. Territories east of the Salween River have naturally been under Yunnan administration. In the late 19th century, the British embarked on massive engineering projects to build roads and railroads to connect Burma to China. Bridges across the Salween gave them access to this remote part of Yunnan, which gradually became incorporated into the British colony of Burma. After the British pulled out in 1948, the region was conveniently absorbed into the newly independent Union of Burma. Thus, China has a far more legitimate claim over this piece of land than it has over Taiwan. They just don't want it. Next, some eye candy. These women are from the Wa ethnic minority found in Yunnan, and just across the imaginary border in Myanmar is a fiefdom called Wa Bang, which looks pretty much like a part of China. More eye candy. This is Han Chinese woman Zhu Xianmei, daughter-in-law of Wa Bang. Madam Zhu is a Douyin influencer with 28,000 fans, about the same as our hospital drama queen Han Feizi. But Zhu Xianmei is no ordinary influencer. She is related to this man, Bao Youxiang, a mafia boss and warlord leading the United Wa State Army. He has 2 wives, an unknown number of concubines, and more than a dozen children. Many of his children have moved out, changed their names, and are residing all over Southeast Asia. Apparently, they are not involved in any of the family's dubious business activities. Bao Youxiang began his career as a guerrilla in Yunnan, fighting the communists in the final days of Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government. He continued his campaign on Burmese territory, but quickly switched sides and made peace when he found out that the communists were ready to do business. The Bao family are the biggest drug producer in the Golden Triangle and the most prosperous of all the fiefdoms. The Wa State Army is also the insurgent army with the strongest ties with the Chinese government. They have also signed a ceasefire treaty with Myanmar's government, allowing them to carry out their business undisturbed. Credited with defeating the legendary Kun Sa, they have not had any major clashes with anyone since the 1990s. Bao Youxiang has a brother by the name of Bao Youliang, who has a son by the name of Bao Junlong, who is the commander of the Wa Army's artillery brigade. Zhu Xianmei, the 美女 mentioned earlier, is Bao Junlong's wife. Born in 1986, Zhu Xianmei grew up in a wealthy family operating a jade trading business based in Kunming. She had a good education, but instead of living in a lap of luxury in a big city like Kunming, she chose a far more exciting life and married a warlord. She then moved into a palace at a clandestine border town in the mountains. As mentioned earlier, Mrs. Bao, or Madame Zhu Xianmei, or Stella as she called herself on Douyin, had a very popular Douyin account. Like other Chinese influencers, she flaunted her wealth and her lavish lifestyle in Hua State. She had photos taken with celebrities and presented herself as a respectable socialite. Her videos on Douyin showed young people, not just in China, that life as a warlord's wife is as close to that of royalty that they could imagine. Zhu Xianmei may only have 28,000 fans, but there were many Chinese influencers like her, telling stories of how they met their Prince Charming in Myanmar and showing off wealth and power to gullible youngsters. Their combined influence on impressionable youths, not just in China but throughout Southeast Asia, was tremendous. Many young men and women were fooled by Madame Zhu's agents in Yunnan and ended up as forced labor in her in-laws' shady operations in Myanmar, one of which is online scams. Next 美女 Wei Rong, daughter of Wei Chaoren, founder of the Henry Group, who had retired and handed the business over to her. After his retirement from business, Wei Chaoren quit being a warlord, joined mainstream politics and became a member of the assembly, which was unfortunately dissolved after the 2021 military coup. The Henry Group is basically a real estate company managing offices, residential properties, and operates casinos and nightclubs. Many online scam syndicates operate on properties owned by the group. Director Wei Rong uses the same technique of posting Douyin videos of her lavish lifestyle in Myanmar to lure young people into the online scam business. Apart from Zhu Xianmei, Wei Rong is also a close friend of the Bai family. Next, Bai Yinglan, Bai Yinggai, daughters of Bai Suocheng, former deputy commander of the Kokang army who surrendered to the military junta in 2010. A little bit about the Kokang people. They are actually Han Chinese people descended from Nanjing's Ming loyalists. General Wu Sangui chased them out of Yunnan after the fall of the Ming dynasty. That's how they ended up here. More juicy Kokang details later. Like the other two Mei, elder sister Bai Yinglan is also active on social media, but she has a different modus operandi. She built hospitals and raised funds in China to help the poor. Bai Yinglan successfully attracted a following as a philanthropist. Apart from hospitals, the family's company, Bai Sheng Group, also operated underground casinos in Myanmar and Yunnan. Note that even though these people are Kokang, they have betrayed the Kokang cause and submitted to central government rule. The youngest member of Mianbei Sida Meiren is Bai Yinggai. She was a bit low-key at first, but things changed after she married her third husband, Cao Qiangli, a gangster from Wenzhou. In Kokang, he started a Wenzhou clan association. The couple coordinated all sorts of shady business deals between Wenzhou and Myanmar. They also operated call centers targeting retired people in China. The social media message going out from Mianbei Sida Meiren is the same. Join us and earn your pot of gold. But once the victims are lured into the trap, they are forced to pull off scams ranging from love scams to investment scams. Those who refused or didn't meet targets were beaten and tortured. Young ladies were trafficked into the sex industry. When the victims were too sick or exhausted, they were sent to the hospital to be euthanized and have their kidneys harvested. Having said all that, these syndicates only mind their own business. They do not target tourists and innocent bystanders. Tales of people being drugged and sold are just urban legends. You also find videos of Chinese tourists who went there without any intention to be recruited by the shady businesses. They all came back safe and sound. The hotels, markets and restaurants are not different from elsewhere. You can't even smell the Syndicates HQ unless you have an agent to bring you in. The victims are folks who have willingly walked into the lion's den only to have the terms and conditions violated by these syndicates. On the 27th of October 2023, the Brotherhood Alliance launched a massive offensive against Myanmar government forces in Kokang. It was a resounding victory for the rebels. Some government troops were killed and many others surrendered. The entire area is now under the control of the Brotherhood. But coincidental or otherwise, prior to Operation 1027, there was an Operation 1020. On the 20th of October, the Chinese government somehow knew in advance that the Brotherhood Alliance would attack and went in to arrest the online scammers a week before war started. The syndicates reportedly operated over 1,000 centers and a total of 100,000 suspects were arrested, or were they rescued? Is it a coincidence that they were arrested just before the military revolution? Have online scams seen a decline after this massive police operation? Well, this morning I just received a call from ICA telling me that my passport is invalid and I need to send money to reactivate it. This makes me wonder, are the suspects sitting in jail now, or have they merely found new offices and new bosses? To understand Kokang politics better, we need to take a look at the commander of the Brotherhood Alliance. This is Peng Deren, son of the legendary Peng Jiasheng, founder of an autonomous Kokang district for Kokang people in 1969. Like I said before, the Kokang people have been living in that area since the end of the Ming Dynasty. It's a very small area, about the size of 3 Singapores. During British occupation, an English-educated young lady by the name of Olive Yang Jinxiu, emerged. She was a tomboy known for getting into fights and carrying guns around. At the age of 19, she formed a militia with a strength of over 1,000 men. Affectionately called the Olive Boys, they set up patrols along the Kokang stretch of the Salween River and controlled the opium trade in the region. Myanmar's first drug warlord was a woman. Olive Yang's control of the drug trade brought prosperity to the Kokang people. A lesbian, her lovers included Burmese actresses and Miss Burma, Louisa Benson. Louisa was half Jew and half Karen. Perhaps inspired by Olive Yang, Louisa later joined the Karen National Liberation Army, but later got married and left for America. After the independence of Burma and the fall of the nationalist government in China, Olive Yang worked closely with the Burmese government of the 1950s and borrowed some firepower from the defeated KMT. Each party had its own agenda, but they were able to share the spoils from the drug trade. Olive Yang would later betray the KMT. Sadly, she trusted the communists. In 1962, she was arrested by the new government of the Socialist Republic of the Union of Burma and jailed. A power vacuum sucked invaders from the east. Kokang came under communist rule as volunteers from Yunnan stormed the area in support of the Burmese Communist Party. In 1989, Burmese Communist Party member Peng Jiasheng quit the party and founded the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army. I'll just call it the Kokang Army for short. Of course, any talk of democracy was all bull. Peng Jiasheng signed a ceasefire treaty with a military junta that has just staged a coup to deny Aung San Suu Kyi her election victory. Peace was restored and the Kokang area prospered from the drug trade. The spoils were happily shared between the military junta and the Kokang army. In 2009, government troops violated the ceasefire and attacked the Kokang army. Peng Jiasheng was betrayed and defeated by his deputy Bai Suocheng. Remember this guy? Bai Yinglan, Bai Yingai's father. And replaced by a junta-friendly Ming family, two unrelated Liu families, and of course the Bai family. Peng Jiasheng fled across the border. Peng Jiasheng died in 2022 after failing to retake Kokang from his former deputy in 2015. By then, his son Peng Deren, who had been running successful businesses, had rebuilt his father's Kokang army. He was determined to return to Kokang, avenge his father by destroying the Bai family, and become Kokang's rightful leader. In 2023, just a month ago, Peng Deren formed the Brotherhood Alliance, comprising his own army, the Arakan army, and the Taang army. Curiously, the Arakan army came a long way from Rakhine State in the west. I was traveling there in 2018. Conspicuously missing from the Brotherhood is the Bao family's Wa army. Note that this family is on friendly terms with the Myanmar government and are also close allies of the Chinese government. There are rumors that they have been attacked by the Brotherhood and some members of the Bai family have already been killed. According to some sources, many of the Chinese warlords have dual nationalities and have sworn allegiance to the Chinese government, allowing them to cross the border as often as some of us go to JB. Be they warlords or entertainment personalities, loyalty often grants immunity to prosecution. Curiously, many people still believe that 1027 was supported and directed by China. Can Myanmar's military junta be so comfortable with that? Let's face it, Myanmar's 2015 elections were allowed to happen not because the junta suddenly believed in democracy. Elections were held because the generals were worried about increasing Chinese influence. Despite knowing that the lady would win by a landslide, their intention was to let the UN lift sanctions so that Western countries could openly invest in Myanmar and dilute the influence of China. Well, the lady turned out to be a bigger threat to the generals' hold on power than China. Remember that in 2021, the coup that ousted the lady was welcomed by China, whose back and forth support of the junta or the rebels depends on business interests and who was more pro-China at any given moment. Ironically, in the wake of 1027, China had publicly called for a peaceful settlement between the Brotherhood and the government. Nobody above the age of 3 would think that's possible. In the aftermath of 1027, ringleaders were reportedly either arrested, killed, or missing. Interestingly, the only group that was reported to be arrested was the low-key Ming family of Kokang. What about the Wei family, the Bai family, and the Bao family, who are just as guilty, if not more? Have they been rescued as well? According to unconfirmed sources, Bai Yinglan and her brother-in-law Cao Qiangli, that Wenzhou gangster, had been killed when the helicopter was shot down. A less prominent Ming family was arrested and apparently sent to China to stand trial. The whereabouts of others are not known. Commander of the Kokang army, Peng Deren, had a seemingly noble task at hand, and that is to smash online scam centers and rescue innocent Chinese victims. Again, you need to be 3 years old to believe that. The Brotherhood Alliance's primary objective was to attack government positions and regain control of former territories that had become government-occupied or run by government-friendly clansmen. Raids and drone attacks on transport vehicles by the Brotherhood had caused tremendous disruption to cross-border trade. Certainly, this is not an outcome that is welcomed by China.
温区的问题啊，就 too simple 啊 ，sometimes naive。
The rugged, inhospitable landscape in this region won't change much over time, but warlords, mafias, and governments have their own agendas, and these folks won't hesitate to betray or change sides when the need arises. At the end of the day, is it about nationalism and minority rights, or just market and territorial dominance? The final outcome of this war is uncertain, but as things unfold over the coming months, the overall picture should get clearer. With your support, I'll make another video if something surprising crops up. Thank you for watching.